Welcome, Claudia-Sam.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jennifer.
I am really excited that we made this work, first off, real quick, and that you're here. I want to know, my favorite burning question is, what is lighting you up in this moment right now?
Mm. What is lighting me up is the word lightness comes to me. Finding lightness in the shifts of being that I am continuously doing in my life and helping my clients do so that it's not so heavy. Mm-hmm.
And what kind of things, I know that it's been a very heavy year, but what kind of things are you noticing as we're starting to become a little lighter as a society? I feel, at least
Mm-hmm.
inside me.
You mean how can we get more lightness? Is that what you
Yes.
said? Well, definitely once we tune into ourselves and start to be aware of what's going on in our body, I find helps tune out all the noise of the media, of what other people's opinions are going about, of politics and all the rules and the restrictions that are happening outside of us. Once we start to tune into the body and to how our physicality is responding to it, we start to be able to tend to what we need. And it just feels more light because we have the choice and we can, in that instance, decide what to do about how we're feeling. Does that make any sense?
Yes. And you said one of my favorite words is we get to decide. We get
Mm,
that choice.
mhm.
Have you always felt in your life that you were empowered enough in making your own choices? Or did you get here? Because I know that you have a tune-in method that I want to learn all about, but I want to know a little bit about that backstory that led you to this.
Thank you for asking. I really believe that as a white woman, and I had and have the privilege, and I'm very aware of that, and I'm still learning about that opportunity and that option to have the choice of education, the choice to get the job that I want, and yeah, the choice to, as a woman, also to decide if I want to have children or not. Or I feel like I'm getting off track. The choice has always been part of my life, and my parents raised me in a way that allows me to look beyond what other people expect of you, to go for what we want and more. So when I was a kid, I remember I had tennis lessons, swimming lessons, dance classes, soccer, name it. I was doing everything. I was given the choice to do whatever I wanted to do and to try it out. So I think that as a very young age, I had that opportunity to go ahead and just try stuff. And as I became older, traveling became a big part of my life. And I started to explore what it was like to be in another culture and to have an array of choices. It was like my life was no longer only directed as to which school I want to go to, what do I want to become as a profession, or what do I want to do as a profession, which friends I want to hang out with. But it became, where do I want to explore life as? Who do I want to learn from? And where and how do I want to expand who I am? Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
There's so many questions I have in there, but one of them is I want to know, on your explorations around to different areas, what kind of things did you notice
Mm.
at that young age?
I have a really bad memory. So to be really honest, so at a young age, I wouldn't be really able right now to tell you what I noticed. Oh, okay, something is coming up. I noticed how it was also very easy to go, oh, I don't like it, because there was always another option. Not saying that was really good to not appreciate the array of opportunity that I had. but this is what is coming up. As an adult, though, the travels and the explorations around the world, I've traveled to, well, many countries, and I've met a lot of different people. And I think what I notice is that we are all seeking, we're all seeking the same thing. We all truly want to be happy. We all truly want to be free. We all want to create a deeper connection, mostly with others, but then with ourselves. I remember when I left, I used to be in corporate. I used to work a lot, and in corporate, my work was my life. And oh gosh, where am I going with this? I feel like one time, I'm losing track. I'm so sorry, Jennifer.
No big deal.
We were talking about choice. I forget
And
what I was saying.
you're working in corporate?
Mm-hmm. And then traveling, and I'm trying to connect the dots, and I forget where I was going, but
We can go back to it. I can ask another question.
it was making so much sense. But what was the initial question?
Just what you've learned in traveling and
Yeah.
being aware of things, and then you were talking about from childhood till now and noticing the differences.
Thank you. By traveling and learning that we all are seeking to be happy and to connect with others and connect with ourselves. There's the link. When I went to travel, I left for a 1 year of sabbatical back when I worked in corporate. And I left because I was trying to find myself outside of work. And what eventually ended up happening is that I was looking in all the wrong places. I was looking outside of myself. I was looking to all these different traveling locations and to all these different teachers and to all these different places for answers, when in reality, all I needed to do was close my eyes and tune in. So, not saying the travels weren't really cool and I didn't learn so much from them, but I noticed that I was just yearning for this external experience that I was never going to get to create a deeper connection with myself.
Ooh, that leads to so many other questions, is that deeper connection with the self. So when you started to notice that you needed to go inward instead of externally, like what was that process looking like, or what sparked that moment to go inward and stop seeking outside?
It was actually before, okay, to stop seeking outside. I lived in an ashram in Nepal where I was secluded from cheese and chocolate and lots of internet and society as a whole, because in the ashram, I was waking up with the sun. I was going to bed at the same time as the sun. And as the sun was waking up or coming or was rising, we were in silence at the ashram at the morning. In the morning, it was until 3 hours of yoga that then we were eating and then we were talking. And then later at night around 8 p.m. until I went to bed around 9 at that, back then, it was silence. And I was finding myself unable to connect with anyone else than with myself. And not that it's the best way to force that kind of realization and that connection, but that's how it worked for me then. And I don't want this forceful solitude to be a necessary experience for self-growth, which is why I decided to empower and help women be their own inner guides and feel empowered from within.
And I think that's exciting that you're able to bring all of those experiences into empowering other women. So how are you working with other women right now to empower
Thank you
them?
for asking. Yes, well, I work mainly one-on-one with driven women who feel that they have this deep inner knowing that they can be so much more in their life. I work with women who know they can be happier, but they have just lost their sense of fulfillment and purpose. And now they're wanting to create that deeper connection with themselves, prioritize themselves, but without the guilt that might come with, well, putting yourself on the to-do list. And I do that using my TuneIn method. Yeah, that's what I do.
And I wanted that leads me perfectly into the question of like, I want to know, what is this tune in method?
Thank you for asking. I'm really loving my TuneIn method. So TuneIn was created from the 7 years of traveling and of healing and coaching and therapy and energy work and yoga teacher trainings and energy medicine and name it. The TuneIn method was created as a way to help women who are in this corporate kind of 9 to 5 lifestyle, go, 1,000 miles an hour, put in everyone else before themselves, so that they can have a sustainable way to make self-care a lifestyle, to be able to put themselves on the to-do list without, feeling selfish about it. Yeah. Without it meaning and believing that self-care is only doable when you have time. Because that's a myth. Self-care is not about the bubble baths and the mani-pedis and the getting your hair dyed. Although those can be really nice if you're into that. I love a massage. I really do. Self-care is really about being, shifting your way of being and making that a habit. So the TuneIn method helps in 3 parts. The first part is balance. Balance at a level of body, mind, and emotions. What I mean by that is, at the beginning of this chat that we're having, I mentioned how being aware of how we're feeling in the body is a way to create more lightness, or that's how it works for me. Well, being aware of everything that actually, is happening in the body, the headache, the heart pressure, the palpitation, the anxiety, the rush of adrenaline, the backache, the knee sprain, whatever. I mean, if you sprained your knee, ouch. But all these body sensations mean something. They are a sign. Our body is constantly talking to us. Therefore, when we start to be aware of how the body is speaking to us, we become aware of what that means in the mind. For example, I don't know about you, but I used to have a lot of headaches. And now when I have a headache, I think, okay, what am I putting pressure on myself for? What am I trying to force? What am I trying to control? Because it's really like you have this pressure on the temples. The headache creates an inner pressure, but often from the external world. So how can I use the physical sensation to help with what's going on in the mind? And sometimes it's pressure, for example, around self-care. A lot of the women at work that I work with, they will say, I don't deserve self-care right now. I haven't deserved it yet. I need to still work towards deserving it. Well, that often can create that pressure to be and do so much more before they get to put themselves first. So it's like a vicious cycle. And then how does that make you feel? Well, it makes you feel anxious, makes you feel stressed. So balance, that first part of the TuneIn method, helps women create the foundation of being aware of what's going on in the body, what's going on in the thoughts, how are they self-sabotaging themselves, and what emotions are there. Because then when we can start this awareness circle of body, mind, emotions, we are able to create a foundation of self-care that doesn't mean you need to take time for yourself, because you can tune into your body while you're in line at the grocery store. Right? So far, does that make, or is that good? Okay. Now, the second part of the TuneIn framework, or the TuneIn method, is connect. Connect to who? Connect to you. Connect to the universe, but mainly to you. What do you want? What are your needs? What are your soul values? How can you shift in a place of putting your focus on yourself first instead of putting focus on others? What is draining you versus what uplifts you? What are you saying yes to constantly just because? But in reality, you could say no, and that would feel so much lighter. Has it happened in your life, Jennifer, when you have, well, not respected boundaries and felt like you weren't connected to yourself?
Daily. Let's be real. That's where I'm working right now, is boundaries and respecting myself a little bit more.
I think it's a life process. And it's something that when we choose to work on ourselves, creating that connection, finding that balance from within is a life's work, which is why I love to bring that work to life and offer this opportunity to women so that they can use that forever, use those tools and keep going to them when they most need it. And the third part of the tune-in method is trust. Trust, well, the universe, but trust yourself. Because I often say it's not about saying, okay, this is what I want, universe, and then crossing our arms and just leaning back and letting the universe do its job. Although we do want to let go of control and trust that we are in an abundant world, and what we are meant to have and be and do will come to us in a timely manner. But trust in that inner voice, that heart's voice, that intuition versus the ego, the mind, the fear. And really noticing the difference between the fear, which would be, you don't deserve self-care, you don't deserve to stop right now. That's the fear. And then the other voice that's like, oh, you really need to stop. You really need to care for yourself. You need a break. That voice is there to help us and support us, but often the mind will come right in here and will say, no, you can keep going. So noticing that dance between the devilish ego, mind, thought, and the more angel-like voice of the intuition. And it's not about eradicating the mind, because we need it, but it's about bringing both equally in our awareness. But in order to do that, we need to have a foundation, which is what balance is there for. So balance, connect, and trust is really a step-by-step way to be in your own inner guide, finding that reason why you're here, that connection to how you can be happier and be more in your life like you want to, finding your way to purpose in a way that suits you, because this is not like a follow me, I know the way to have a happier life. We all are different beings. We all are unique. We all have our own way. So this is about finding your way, using a little bit more of a structure, because it can be overwhelming to go, okay, I want to put myself first, but what do I do first?
And I think that that's really like an important takeaway that I'm getting, is that every person has a different process. That's why a lot of these cookie cutters don't work, whether that's in business strategy, any of the things, any of the cultures that are out there. We're not going to go into that, but any of those cultures that put us in a box. And I love that you're bringing that. So when you left corporate and you moved into this, did you use your own tune-in method before it got refined into the tune-in method?
Oh, totally. Totally. And when I left corporate, I kind of jumped in the unknown. Like, when I remember I was 1 year after travels, I was supposed to go back to work. And I knew deep down that that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to go back. I did not know what I wanted, though. I didn't know what I was going to do. Was I going to be a teacher and get paid $50 a class? How was I going to live that way? For me, that's not where I wanted to go. That's not how I was going to make an impact and help that much and find my purpose. Although it helped me for a little while and I really enjoyed it. And I'm really grateful for the teaching experience that I have accumulated. But jumping into the unknown of calling my boss and going, I'm not going back, without having money, without having a plan, without knowing where I was going to go or what I was going to do, that I feel comes back to that trust, that piece of listening just to that deep down inner nudge that is like, okay, you can't go back. So just go ahead, and using the fear that's there. Yep, it's fearful to go, woo, I'm jumping. Except I knew I needed to do it. So I would say that the tune-in method, yes, it was created from these experiences in my life. And then when I put them all together, in order to trust, I was able to listen to the deep down inner nudge. I knew it was there, but I also know it was there way before, because I did leave for a year on sabbatical. So I kind of knew I had to listen to that voice, but I did it slowly, because I still kept the attachment to my corporate job while I was on travels. It was too scary to jump and take the leap from there. Now I know that I would do it differently now, but back then that was my safety net, and it was okay for me at that point. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. And I think that's another point that I kind of want to just reiterate back to you, is that it's okay to keep that safety net while you're making the transition. But there is a certain point where when you listen, when you really tune in with your body, that it's going to be like, no, you can't do that anymore. That's what happened to me, is that I just was like sick. I could never go to work because I was sick all the time. And then finally it's like, okay, well, we can only have you out for so long. So it parted ways. And then this beautiful thing that came from that. So I'm excited that you learned before.
Oh my gosh. But like you, I also got sick. I remember when I was in corporate, I would get sick 4 times a year. And that was my body saying, yo, you better start listening. And then eventually I burned out. Eventually I had panic attacks. Eventually it became worse. But that was what was the tipping point of, okay, you have to make a change. And unfortunately, for many women, that's how it works. They don't have the urgency to create a change in their lives until they hit a wall. And it's unfortunate, but hopefully, if you're listening, you don't wait until that wall hits you so hard until you can tune in and create that deeper connection with yourself.
So if someone was listening and they were ready to just start barely tuning into themselves, you mentioned that like self-care isn't all massages and pedicures. What is one thing that is self-care that is outside of what we put in the box of self-care?
Well, I feel like one of the most important things is shifting the belief that self-care, like we mentioned at the beginning, is taking time for yourself. It's one of the things. Taking time comes from listening to that deep down inner nudge voice that says, you need to rest, you need to take time, you need to slow down. So self-care is not about doing a specific thing, because often we'll go, I need to take time for myself, and then we'll insert massage or reading a book or getting your nails done or whatever. We'll insert the doing part. And what it comes down to me is that self-care, self plus care, caring for the self, it's a lifestyle. It's something that happens all the time, continuously. So self-care is about being. And as boring as that might sound, we are being every day, except we are in the past with our thoughts, or we are in the future with planning, with the work that we do. And we are hardly ever in the present moment. So we are hardly ever being, when self-care is all about that.
Wow. It's one of those moments I'm like, okay, I lost my questions. I have no questions. Like, my mind is processing that right now. So that leads, and I know that you have something that's coming out it's a slow down and de-stress, correct? And that brings you into that moment. Can you tell me a little bit about that slow down and de-stress?
Yes, thank you for asking. Slow down, de-stress, it is what it sounds like. It's an opportunity to create that deeper connection with yourself over a 5-day free self-care challenge. And it's really meant for driven women who are used to going, well, who are of doing the go, go, go and being in that 1,000 miles an hour rhythm, but who realize it's not for them anymore, even if they've never prioritized themselves until now. They're ready to explore that now. So it's a free self-care challenge, and you can sign up at any time on my website, claudiasamsoulcoaching.com, and you can find all the information on there.
And I'll make sure to get all your information in the show notes too, to make sure that it's easy for people to find you. Other than on your website, is there anywhere that you like to connect with people?
Yes, I have a wonderful community on Facebook of like soul women who are on this journey to transform their lives and becoming a better version of themselves. It's called You Have It in You, and it's on Facebook.
I'm so excited. So I want to leave with my absolute, well, they're all my favorite questions. If you haven't noticed, I'm like, my favorite question. I have a lot of them. But my normal question is, if somebody walked away with just one little, like, that mic drop moment, what would you want that to be?
Ooh, pressure. You have it in you. That creation of a deeper inner connection, that listening skill of that deep down inner nudge, that confidence to be who you are meant to be, and the belief that nothing can stop you. All the answers of all of your questions are all already inside of you, and it is your choice to determine whether you want to hear them or silence them. You have it in you.